Hello and welcome back to Brian's announcement. I think the internet didn't want to work earlier, and I wanted to give you a little backstory on him, which I had started to do. This is Brian. He arrived at the sanctuary a few weeks ago, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of backstory. This is him on his way to come here in his little carrier eating his food. You can see how little he looked. His feathers were just starting to come in. He came from a farm where his family members were killed by a predator, and they were frantically looking to rehome him, so he was rescued from there. This is him on his way here eating some food in his carrier. He was very small. This is his first day at the sanctuary, looking really cute and little. You can see his comb and wattle starting to come in. Based on how they're looking and how they're growing, we're assuming he's a male, but we have been wrong in the past. And yeah, he's been very quickly growing. He is a Cornish cross, so they do grow very quickly. You can see when he arrived, I was able to hold him in my hand. Now I need 2 hands to hold him. He just wrapped up his quarantine period, so all new residents, when they arrive, they're in quarantine to make sure that they are nice and healthy before they meet any of our other residents. And while he was on quarantine, he was by himself. He arrived by himself, and at that age, you really want them to be with other chickens. That's the best for them, but during that time, we tried to keep him occupied. We spent lots of time with him, and we also put little shows on for him. We would put like YouTube videos of birds flying around, and he loved them. He would sit there and watch that, so that kept him occupied, and he was busy with us too, which was great. He just kind of like relaxed in front of the TV. There he is again. So it's like his feathers when he arrived. He had a lot of that like baby down, the little fluff on him, and his adult feathers were just starting to grow in, and now he looks completely different. You can see he's starting to change. He's still in the office here on quarantine. He did a lot of preening. He's been doing a lot of preening. He did a lot when he first got here, because you can see all of those little baby feathers coming out, and he was taking care of them. And this is his very first dust bath ever. This is like day 1. We gave him a dust bath. That's peat moss, and he was kind of rolling around in it. Chickens take dust baths to stay clean, so he was using that to kind of put up under his feathers. It must have felt really amazing, because all of his new feathers were coming in, and that might have been kind of itchy for him. We've been able to experience a lot of firsts with him. So his first dust bath, this is the first time he ever ate a blueberry. We kind of squished it for him, and you can see that he's not grabbing it really quickly. He's not like super excited about it like Mary and Sunny and Nancy are with food. They just kind of go for anything, and they're very frantic around food, but he was kind of rolling it around in his mouth, and that's how baby chickens and a lot of baby animals explore new food. They kind of roll it around their mouth. Chickens have these cute little tongues, and he was tasting it, so he wasn't eating it right away. He was kind of testing it out. So that was his first blueberry. A lot of firsts with food. We got him outside a bit before he came over to Dolly's house, so he had his own little X-Pen and supervised outside time. That was really awesome for him to explore and get used to everyone and kind of settle in. And he had his first vet visit really recently. He was very healthy. This is him laying on his back, if you're wondering which end's which. The vet listened to his breathing. We did fecal testing to make sure that he was healthy and didn't have anything infectious to spread to the other chickens, and he was good to go. So we decided to bring him out of quarantine and to meet our chicken residents. So we weren't really sure how that was going to go. You never know. He's a baby, but he's also a male, so we weren't sure how he was going to get along with Nancy. I kind of thought that the girls were going to like him. The very first chicken he met was Nancy, and we weren't really 100% sure how it was going to go, but Nancy's reaction while Brian was still in the crate, he was off quarantine, but he was in his crate, was just like pure excitement. They were kind of pecking each other's faces, which is really friendly. If they peck hard at the top of the head, that's usually aggressive, but this is very friendly, like exploring. So Nancy, you can see he was just like enamored. He was really excited. It was really similar to his reaction when he first saw Dolly, remember when he first saw Dolly, it was like love at first sight. He was very excited. You can see here, this is a video. It looks like a photograph, but he is just being really still. He was really gentle and careful around Brian and not wanting to upset him or bother him. So he was really, really excited when he first met Brian. It was kind of love at first sight. He was very protective over him. Sometimes when I come in here, now that Brian's living in Dolly's house, I come in and Nancy pecks me because I'm near Brian. So their integration at first in the office, first meeting place, was really adorable. Like, look at Nancy's face. He's just kind of like really up close and hovering over Brian. And Brian was really happy to meet another chicken because he had been on his own for a while. So this was their first meeting. He just kind of fawned over him and was watching over him. This is probably my favorite photo of them together. Look at Brian's face. Like, Nancy's ready to teach him the ways of being a sassy chicken. So that went really well. Surprising. I wasn't sure if Nancy was going to be aggressive because Brian's a male, or if Nancy recognized that he was a male, or recognized just that he was a baby chicken. But Nancy really, what he feels, you can read right away. Like, I remember when he met Moby for the first time, he was very unimpressed. He just did not like that duck, and he hasn't ever since. But with Dolly, he was in love immediately, and you can just read it. You can tell how he interacted with her while she was on quarantine, and he would go sit by her crate until he actually got to meet her. And Brian has met Mary and Sunny. They had very different reactions to him, different than Nancy. They both had the same reaction, but they were mad, to put it short. Like, they were not happy. He is in his own little area in Dolly's house now, so he's still kind of separate through part of the day. Sometimes he's hanging out with Nancy and Terry, and then for overnight as well, because they're not happy. I think they'll get used to him eventually, and he's also too small just to kind of put him in with everybody. So when we do integrations, we're really careful that we don't just put the new resident with all the other residents and just let them figure it out. He's really small, he's really young, we don't want him to get injured, we don't want his initial reaction to his new home to be scary. So they're getting used to each other through this X pen. So Brian is in here. Right now he's roaming around with Nancy. They're just hanging out on the other side. So that's what he's currently doing during the day. Sometimes he'll be out in the yard in Dolly's house, and often I'll walk by, and this is like the cutest thing ever. He's just sitting on this little rock, just looking out into the duck coop. So the duck coop is right beside, and he's just sitting there watching the ducks. This is Richard first meeting him, so he went over and was just kind of checking him out. He was pretty excited. Yeah, so Brian likes to spend time outside doing dust baths, sunbathing. Nancy's showing him around a lot, so that's kind of been his story so far up until now. Brian is still over here in Dolly's house, and everything's going really, really well. He's amazing. I'm going to show you him over here. He's just like chilling out in the back. How cute is that? He's just laying in his little like IKEA bed. It's very quiet in here right now. I'm not going to pick him up again because he's relaxing, but he is very friendly. He's very excited. He's very curious. He's a little bit sassy, which I like. So that's Brian. So I'm glad I got to introduce him to everybody, and be prepared for a ton of Brian photos and videos coming up on our social pages, because we're very excited to show him a lot and watch him. You can watch him grow with us because he is growing extremely quickly. Every time I come in, I'll be off for a few days on my weekend, and I'll see him again, and he'll just be bigger. He's kind of growing into his feet. So thank you so much for tuning in, and be prepared for a lot more Brian content.